What's up, everybody? We're back playing some more Ace Attorney. We're gonna be wrapping up case number 5. It's gonna be a wrap up. A second here. Well, matter of fact, I never did this before. Just checking some stuff really quick. 'Cause I thought we were gonna be on the last courtroom thing, but turns out I probably should have done this before I set up the title. After this courtroom thing, there's gonna be another courtroom thing we have to go through. And more than likely, it's probably gonna have to get some more evidence. But I just thought of something because I never did this before with any of the Ace Attorney stuff. We'll try to commit to. We'll try. I mean, because I ain't got to work tomorrow, and I definitely want to stay up so I can watch the new She-Hulk series that's gonna be on Disney Plus. So I figured, you know what? In lieu of multiverses, trying to squeeze that in, why don't I try to get in 2 hours of Ace Attorney and see if we can manage to wrap up everything, and then try to squeeze in some God of War afterwards. Because I never pulled, at least I don't remember. I mean, you can check the history of my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkingofcarl, and you can check and see if definitely watch my previous Phoenix Wright gameplays, but I don't recall, because I don't think so. I'm at least 99% sure I never pulled a 2-hour gameplay. Usually for my walkthroughs, I do at least 1 or 2, couple of hours worth, depending how long the game is, of a video. But I want to just see if we can try to wrap up here in 2 hours. Some stuff around. So, what do you think, Mr. Wright? I think the prosecution is as confused as we are. Oh, by the way, you know my stream deck, the one I play all the sound bites and everything like that? Usually I had it flat because I never figured it out, which I probably should have, watched a YouTube unboxing years, at least last year when I got it, or early this year. And I finally have the stream deck set up where it's propped up properly, because I never figured out, I thought a piece was missing or something. No, I just had to undo some kind of tiny little mechanism, and now I got it propped up so it's facing me, and then just press a button right away, like this. Like this.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
So, yeah. Could I easily have done that? Anyway. After all, the victim was murdered in 2 different places at the same time, and a different suspect was arrested at each of the crime scenes. Lana! Good morning, Mr. Wright. Speaking of Lana, it's been a hot minute, because I'm going through a bunch of Iron Man stuff for future reviews for TV show, comic, and movies. But after playing this case, I'm thinking you know what? Hearing no name Lana, that's the first love interest of Superman when he was growing up in Smallville. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I should definitely review the first 2 at least a few Superman movies that like I enjoyed, and another comic book, because it's been a hot minute since I did the only Superman comic that I reviewed was Superman Earth 1, which you can check out on the channel. And like this other Earth 1 books I wanted to do reviews for, because I think the Earth 1 universe is kind of like their Marvel Ultimate Universe. I think they're really solid. I did a review for Green Lantern Earth 1. And there's a Wonder Woman 1, Batman, obviously, and Teen Titans. I haven't read Teen Titans or the Wonder Woman 1, but I did remember reading at least a couple of times through reading Batman Earth 1. And it's like, it's definitely, out of all the Earth 1 books that I read, it wasn't my favorite, which is weird. Because you would think like something like Batman should be, I won't say it's not always a walk in the park, but it's just like, there's some things I like and some things I don't like out of it. And it's more dislikes out of the likes. But I definitely want to find like another good Superman story to do a review for. A comic book wise, I mean. I apologize for yesterday. I was indisposed. I hope they didn't hold you too long for questioning. We just finished, actually. I'm used to all-nighters, though. So, how'd it go? It says Mr. Wright suspects. The police are clueless. I figured as much, so I struck a plea bargain. A plea bargain? What do you mean by that? We agreed that if I told them the truth behind this simultaneous murder, they wouldn't seek capital punishment. That's what I mean, Emma. What? But Lana, don't tell me you... Much to my regret, I'm as much in the dark about this as they are. Miss Sky. We found trace evidence of certain person in the police department's evidence room. They belong to Officer Jake Marshall. What kind of trace evidence? Bloodstained fingerprints, to be exact. That's the trump card I have up my sleeve today. You do understand what this means, don't you? In order to defend my sister, you're going to accuse Mr. Marshall? We have to play the cards we're dealt. Isn't that right, Miss Sky? Do what you have to do, Mr. Wright. You know, I've never been in court before. I've seen stuff like playing like courtroom stuff, like live television for like high profile stuff, like Jussie Smollett's situation and Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial. I personally never been physically in a courtroom before. And I imagine courtrooms in different countries are like probably vastly different from each other. I don't know if Japanese courtrooms look exactly like what you see here in Phoenix Wright. I would assume because Phoenix Wright is Capcom Japanese creation, which is, speaking of, now I'm thinking about it, because I'm planning, because I really want to start a collection of manga of my favorite animes that I probably start building a collection here and there, like Yu-Gi-Oh, Food Wars, Pokemon, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And I want to see if this Phoenix Wright, I'm pretty sure it has. Let me look it up real quick. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's definitely books. Yeah, so I'm trying to do some collection of those as well. I really like Phoenix Wright as a character. Because I think I want to say the first time, I'm pretty sure I've seen Phoenix Wright here and there. But I think the first time I actually was like invested into the character because he was so interesting was probably Marvel vs. Capcom 3, like before the Ultimate Edition. When that character was introduced, I was like, oh, snap. Like, you know, they got that guy. And it's like, and then I started like getting one of the games for my Game Boys, and then it kind of spiraled into like an appreciation for Phoenix Wright. So I was like, yeah, you know, I want to collect some manga books for. I need to start writing this stuff down. You would think it'd be easy to remember because I'm not gonna get every manga, but like I said, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Phoenix Wright, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Bleach, Naruto, My Hero Academia. That's another thing. Yeah, I don't have to write some of this stuff down so I won't end up missing stuff. Yeah, like Food Wars. Yeah, like. Anyway, court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Sky. The defense. He wanted the da-da. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is... I'm afraid you'll have to clarify. It takes 30 minutes by car to reach the police department from the prosecutor's office. Yet the victim, Bruce Goodman, was slain at both places at the same time. But that's not physically possible, is it? What's more, I hear the victim from the evidence room just disappeared. Yes, and the body eventually reappeared in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. Ah, this is one messed up trial. One of my duties as prosecutor is to present impartial evidence. Today I will present evidence relating to the murder at the police department. In so doing, I believe the way in which we should proceed will reveal itself. Now, that's what sets Mr. Edgeworth apart. He sounds so on top of things, even though he doesn't know what's going on himself. And that's supposed to be an admiral trait? Very well, let the trial resume. On the day of the crime, what exactly transpired at the police department? Mr. Edgeworth, you may call your first witness of the day to the stand. For his first witness, the prosecution calls the suspect of the murder that occurred at the police department. The suspect? You mean the so-called murderer? Things are getting wild from the get-go. Will the witness please state his name and occupation? Yes, sir. I am Officer Mike Meakin, sir. My occupation is, that would be murderer, sir. So you're telling us you're a professional killer? Sir, it was me, sir. I'm the one who did it. I never kill anyone again, sir. You got to believe me, sir. Actually, what we'd like to hear from you is... Sir, I'm what you would call a part of the younger generation, sir. A person whose actions adults can't possibly comprehend. Please, Mr. Edgeworth, sir. Help me, sir. Officer Meekins. Yes, sir. Give us your report of the crime. Consider that in order. Yes, sir. As you wish. After all, I am part of a generation that must be told what to do, sir. You can't fault him for a lack of enthusiasm. Although it's not my normal duty, I was assigned to guard the evidence room that day. I spotted a suspicious man on the security screen and rushed into the room. I was only doing what I was trained to do, sir. I was suddenly attacked. I fought for my life. Then I did it. After that, I passed out until another officer smacked me awake. So the victim, Detective Goodman, attacked you? Do unto others before they do unto you. That's the Meekins family model, sir. That's basic Bible quote, guy. Your family's not the originators. I see. Then you fainted and a colleague helped you regain consciousness. Yes, sir. He knocked me upside the head, sir. Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination. What I need here is more info to work with. Mr. Meekins, you work in the General Affairs Department, do you not? Yes, sir. I'm in charge of hiring new recruits, sir. Yikes, now there's a scary thought. Evidence transfer was taking place on the day of the crime, which meant many officers were given special tasks not ordinarily performed. I was in charge of guarding the Blue Badger, sir. The Blue Badger? Yes, sir. The lovely police mascot created by the chief of detectives, sir. I was to ensure it wasn't broken during the transfer process. That was my sole mission for the day, sir. I see. Sounds like a very important mission. After the award ceremony finished that day, there were so many people running around that I relocated the Blue Badger to the evidence room. Oh, so that's why you went to the evidence room. Tell us, what did you see when you got there? In order to enter the evidence room, you need an ID card, am I correct? Precisely, sir. I have one right here around my neck. So then, your ID number should be listed on here, right? There it is, I found it. This is the one right here. Could you please read us the number? Yes, sir. It's 4989596. That's my number, sir. I see. Huh. But the number 4989596 is shown as being used twice. Please explain, witness. It's no real mystery, sir. The first time is when I relocated the Blue Badger to the evidence room. And the second time is when I went to go get him after everything settled down. I see. So it was during that second time when? Yes, sir. That was when I spotted the man on the security screen. I was only doing what I was trained to do, sir. But you were attacked. Can you please tell us exactly what happened to you? It was a knife, sir. A knife. Detective Goodman pulled a knife on you? What happened then? Well, with me charging in on him like that, he looked as surprised as I was. You aren't exactly the kind of person someone would want to run into. That's when I reacted, sir. I swung my arms like an octopus, struggling to detain him. That's how I got this gash on my hand. Maybe if you just kept your cool, your head wouldn't be. When I saw the blood trickling down my arm, I panicked. I grabbed the man by his collar. What exactly do you mean when you say did it? I know I don't look the type, but I'm really into Kung Fu films, sir. The man let his guard down for just an instant, so I snatched his knife from him. I took his knife. I spun him around and performed a disarming maneuver. I made sure to close my eyes like a man. I see. He must have been distracted. He must have been desperate. The next thing I knew, his white coat was drenched in a sea of my blood. And then the next thing I knew, yes, he punched me right in my face, sir. About what time did you regain consciousness? No offense, sir, but how am I supposed to know that? I was unconscious. Right. According to the report from the officer that woke up the witness, it was about 5:30. He hit me right in the head, too. I woke up crying tears of pain. That's nice. It's nice that you recovered, that is. When I came around, though, I made sure to finish my mission, sir. Your mission? Yes, sir. The Blue Badger, sir. I returned him to the entrance before things got out of hand. Well, we can all rest easy now. I believe we now have a fairly accurate picture of what happened. Yes, Your Honor. Only one thing remains unclear. Was the man this officer murdered really the victim? He's got a point. Yes, Officer Meekins. With regard to that, sir, take a look at this. It was sent to my jail cell. Chief Gant delivered it to me just this morning, sir. The chief delivered it? What is it? A videotape? Yes, sir. That's absolutely right, sir. A videotape, sir. It contains footage from the security camera in the evidence room.
Objection!
What? I specifically asked if there was such a tape and was told it had been mistakenly erased. It's quite a mistake. I just do what I'm told, sir. It's the only thing I'm really good at. Looks like communication with the police department is as good as ever. Well then, let's have a look. Show us the video of you murdering the victim. Oh, please stop using that word murder, sir. It scares me. Videotape of a real murder. Just what are we getting ourselves into? Guess the blood on the ground is Meekins. Well, I believe we're all thinking the same thing. How can we deal with these unsettling feelings stirred within us? What the hell was that wriggling piece of plywood? Sir, that is the pride and joy of the entire criminal affairs department, sir. It's the Blue Badger, sir. Why am I not surprised this isn't going smoothly? Yes, well, anyway. This tape seems to prove that the witness did indeed encounter someone in the evidence room, and some sort of activity did take place. Your Honor, instead of relying on clearly incomplete footage, the witness's testimony will suffice. Is that all right with you, Officer Meekins? Yes, sir. As you wish, sir. His face can be clearly seen in the video, but there's no question that the other person was Detective Goodman, sir. I mean, he opened the locker, which required Detective Goodman's fingerprint to do. The locker he opened is unquestionably Detective Goodman's locker, sir. So it must be him. No one else could have unlocked it. What's the point about fingerprint? Each detective has been given a locker equipped with a fingerprint-activated lock. These locks ensure that each locker can only be opened by the detective it belongs to. Intriguing. That would mean the victim at the crime scene would have to have been Detective Goodman. Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination. I don't know where this cross-examination will lead, but everything begins with contradictions. That's where I have to start. Tell me, were you able to get a good look at him? At the face of the man who attacked you with a knife? Sir, if you must label people as having seen or not seen the man's face, I believe I would be classified as the latter. The latter? But you were standing right in front of him, were you not? More to the point, you are the person who fought him, aren't you? Oh, yes, sir, but I didn't get a clear look at his face, sir. I'm not the kind of guy who looks directly at people when talking with them, you see? Yeah, that's a good trait for a police officer. Still, I'm sure it was him. I bet my badge on it. But you don't know that. But you don't know that for sure, do you? You never actually saw Detective Goodman's face. Well, I suppose you might say that. This is if you must label people as having seen or not seen it. Since his face can't be identified in the video, only you can verify it. Why is everyone looking at me? If I had to label your stares as disturbing or Meekins, having been shown a questionable video at best, we are not in the best of moods. Now please be more certain when you testify. Yes, sir. You claim the man who brandished a knife on you was Bruce Goodman. Tell us why you are positive it was him. About these lockers, is there no other way to open them? No, sir. I myself tried all kinds of methods in the past. They only respond to registering fingerprints, sir. I wonder what kind of methods you tried. If the man opened the locker's lock, which only responds to its registered fingerprints, then he must be the person the locker was assigned to. Exactly my point, sir. And this too. The locker he opened up. How do you know that information? I've heard rumors, sir, from people in the know, sir. People in the know. The workers in the department cafeteria, sir, they keep me informed. They also listen to my romantic troubles, sir. TMI. For the record, the open locker did indeed belong to Detective Goodman. I verified this information through a more reliable source. So the victim opened the locker with his own fingerprint. However, the most important detail is not shown in this video. The man's face. Sir, if I may say something, sir. Please do. After all, you are the one being examined. I don't understand why the man's face is so important in this case, sir. I mean, it was his hand that opened the fingerprint lock. And it was his hand that tried to thrust his knife into my body, sir. My unsettled state can testify enough to this, sir. Excuse me. Give me something to drink really quick. Sorry about that. Alright, yes, you have a point. The footage doesn't lie. That is, unless the defense can find a problem with it. Mr. Wright, let's check the court record again. Is there a problem with the security video? I'm sure there is. Excuse me. One second. Regarding the video contained on this tape, there is one thing in particular that seems rather strange. Strange? This contradiction leads to the possibility that the man may not have been Detective Goodman. What? This video contains such a contradiction. This video contains such a contradiction? Interesting. Your Honor, I have a proposal. Yes, Mr. Edgeworth? I propose we have the defense point out to us this alleged contradiction in the video. You will want me to point it out. Why wouldn't you? You brought it up. Very well, the proposal is accepted. Let us further inspect this piece of evidence. I will now play the security tape. Mr. Wright, please show us this contradiction you speak of. I have to point out the problem in the video. This is the first time I've ever had to do that. You can do it, Mr. Wright. It's set up so you can fast forward, rewind, or pause the video. Just take a good look and be sure to point out the right thing. Please don't play it too many times. I can't stand watching this video. How did this guy ever become a police officer? Now then, Mr. Wright, please enlighten us. Where is the contradiction that indicates the man may not be Detective Goodman? The thing that's strange about this video has got to be this. Officer Meekins. Sir, do you mean me, sir? Your name is Meekins, isn't it? As I understand it, the locker apparatus works like this. When you grab the handle, a sensor reads your fingerprint if it's a match. If it's a match, the light turns on and the lock is released. According to my very limited experience, that's the way I understand it, sir. If so, then something is seriously wrong with this picture. I didn't even notice that. When the victim reaches for the handle to open the locker, let's rewind to a little earlier. Here, notice that light? What's this? It's already lit. Precisely my point, Your Honor. The locker was already open before the victim grabbed the handle. Some of those pants. What's the meaning of this? It's very simple, Your Honor. The locker wasn't locked on the day of the crime. But the locker locks are controlled by an electronic system. When a door is shut, a sensor is triggered, and the locker is automatically locked. Oh, I know, it must have broken down. Of course, I'm not an expert in this. That's not likely, Your Honor. The sensor would detect and report any malfunction. Oh well, it just goes to show novices should keep their mouth shut. So then, Mr. Wright, do you have an explanation? Me, Your Honor? Yes, why wasn't the locker locked? Me, Your Honor? Yes, well, you see, this isn't exactly my field. What do you think, Miss Scientific Investigator? Huh? Oh, maybe something like jam the system sensor? Something jam the sensor? Say, there's something else that seems out of place in this video. Yeah, I thought so too. There's got to be another clue somewhere in this footage. Very well. Let's inspect the video once more. The locker was unlocked, right? Mr. Wright, please point out the cause of that. Hold on a second. Please watch closely. This is the continuation of the part I showed you earlier. What's this? Something white fell out of the locker. But sir, it's been my experience that things fall out when doors are open. I often fall out and roll with great distances. We can't be sure that item was completely inside the locker to begin with. What do you mean? The sensor triggers the lock when the door is shut. What if something was inserted, say, between the sensor and the door? Inserted?
Phrasing?
This white thing wasn't inside the locker. It was stuck between the door and the sensor. Oh, I understand now, sir. It's just like my tie. 2 out of 3 times it gets stuck in the door when I get out of my patrol vehicle, sir. Instead of the door closing, the object would have to be extremely thin to fit in the door. Not only that, it will also have to block electrical currents. It would need to be an insulator. Yes, an insulator. But at the crime scene, there just might have been something that fits the description. But sir, by insulator, you don't mean. And I finally got this figured out. Very well. Will the defense please present the relevant evidence? What was this insulator that was stuck in the locker door?
Take that!
I found this near the locker, a thin rubber glove. But we can't be sure that was in the victim's locker. It has a tag that says SO9 incident. The video seems to depict the victim opening the locker. But that isn't the case. The lit lamp attests to this. On the day of the crime, even I could have opened that locker. Is that not so, Officer Meekins? So are we to believe that the victim, whom this witness stabbed in the evidence room, was not Detective Goodman? Objection! Do not be misled, Your Honor. What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? The defense has merely demonstrated that possibility and nothing more. The victim in this video was indeed Bruce Goodman. The prosecution will offer one more testimony to prove this. What? Officer Meekins, please testify about this. Sir? Me, sir? I'm not sure what you're referring to, sir. Oh, you mean that, sir? Of course, sir. Is this a joke? Very well, begin your testimony. There was one other thing that proves that man was Detective Goodman, sir. To enter the evidence room, one must use their ID card. When an ID card is used, there's a record of it. At the time of the crime, the detective had used this card. An ID card record. I see. I have the ID card record right here, Your Honor. The ID used at 514 is that of the victim. Just before the crime, Yes, without a doubt, this is the victim's ID. However, one thing does strike me as unusual. Several hundred cases should have been due for transferal. Why were there so few people using this room? This particular evidence room is only used for storing certain special cases. Special cases? Extremely violent cases involving police staff. Just hearing that makes my hair stand on end. Me too, although it doesn't make much of a difference. There were only a few cases up for transferal there, and most were cleared up by noon. Right, I see. Now let us move on to the cross-examination. So unlike your earlier testimony, you believe this to be rock solid, do you? Yes, sir. Solid as a stone, sir. If my hand wasn't wrapped in bandages, I even give the V for victory sign, sir. Can he just use his right hand for that? Assure him out fully. As we've seen, one never knows what he might say until the very last second. Is that card hanging from your neck one of these ID cards? Yes, sir. This card right next to my cuff, sir. I keep it here so I won't forever forget it. But what if someone were to steal it from you, keeping it out in the open like that? Maybe I shouldn't wear it around my neck. Remember when I said 2 out of 3 times my tie gets stuck when I get out of my car? Well, the remaining time is my ID and that gets stuck. Instead of the door closing, my ID card chokes me. Maybe I should just leave this one alone. At any rate, each police officer has only one ID card. Both the police department and the prosecutor's office can attest to this. Please proceed with your testimony. Let it be noted that this is the record the witness referred to. Let me see. Yes, that would be it. Detective Goodman. What's the matter? According to this, Mr. Edgeworth, your name is on here. So it is, Your Honor. You got the wrong color, kid. It would seem the inquiry committee will want to speak with you again today. I have nothing to be ashamed of regarding my actions or their consequences. For now, let us continue with the cross-examination. Poor Mr. Edgeworth, it must be so difficult for him. Earlier, I believe you testified that when you asked the man to show his ID card, he pulled a knife on you. Yes, sir. He didn't show me any ID card, sir. Don't you think that's odd? I mean, if he had his ID card, all he had to do was show it to you. There wouldn't be any reason to draw a knife. Maybe he just panicked. Everything stems from contradictions. Let's point them out. Mr. Wright, what do you think? I'm confused. What? The problem with this ID card testimony is far too obvious. It's not like Edgeworth to miss something like this. You're thinking too hard about it. You're thinking too hard about it. Come on, let's show them what we got. One second.
Objection!
Wait one moment, Officer Meekins. I'm not good at waiting, sir. I have the victim's ID card right here. I found it at the crime scene. Oh, God. It's like a sore, not sore throat, but man, feeling kind of congested or something. Had to clear my throat, you know, every few freaking minutes. When I say crime scene, I'm not referring to the evidence room at the police department. I mean the other crime scene. The underground parking lot at the prosecutor's office. Your Honor, I have one more piece of evidence to present. It's a very important clue regarding the victim's ID card. A lost item report? It's only half complete, but it shows that Detective Goodman had lost something on that day of the crime. Something important enough to fill out this report. Let me guess. You believe this something to be his ID card, right? I can't say for sure, but there is a high probability. On the day of the crime, Detective Goodman was not carrying his card. So now, what does this all mean? It can only mean one thing. It doesn't even require much thought. The man Officer Meekins encountered in the evidence room was not Detective Goodman, but rather the man who stole his ID card. Does the prosecution have a response? I have only one thing to say to the defense. Bravo, Mr. Wright. Bravo. Allow me to summarize the defense's argument. By 5:15 p.m. on the day of the crime, the man in the evidence room Officer Meekins encountered was not Detective Goodman. There are two grounds to support this. First, the locker in the evidence room was already unlocked. Second, the victim lost his ID card. Am I correct so far, Mr. Wright? Yes. What are you up to? That being the case, we must inevitably arrive at a single conclusion. If the victim in this video is a fake, then the murder in the evidence room is also a fake. In other words, the security cameras does not show the instant of the murder. That is... Well, I guess that's right. Something wrong, Mr. Wright? Only moments ago you seemed content to be pointing your finger around. This isn't going to end well. Well, it seems you finally realized exactly what you've gone to such lengths to prove. Explain yourself, Mr. Edgeworth. The defense has already done the explaining for me. The victim in this video is a fake, which means a murder did not take place. At the police department at 5:15 on the day of the crime. So, the real crime could only take place at one location, the underground parking lot. At the prosecutor's office, the murderer being Miss Lana Sky, the defendant. The evidence is compelling. A trustworthy witness. Observe the moment of the defendant used the murder weapon. I knew that testimony was way too shabby. It was all a trap from the beginning. Is that the activity in this evidence room still leaves many questions unanswered. Who exactly was the victim Officer Meekins encountered? Oh, let me check my phone just to see if it's charged anyway. If you hear something in the distance, I got my door open to let some air circulate. My little brother's in the living room playing on his video game. So you might be hearing like something like yells. It's just him. And where did this person disappear to? However, this trial's purpose is to examine only the murder of Detective Goodman. Just so, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, you have to do something, or else Lana... What to do? How am I supposed to get myself out of this mess? Hold on a second.
Objection!
One moment, Your Honor. What now, Mr. Wright? Don't tell me you're objecting to what you've just proven. Of course not. But I almost walked right into the prosecution's trap. What are you talking about? This cross-examination has proven one thing and one thing only. The security video did not show the actual murder. However, it cannot be said that it is unrelated to the murder in the parking lot. Specifically, large amounts of blood traces were found in the evidence room. The defense demands further examination into the truth of that matter. Mr. Edgeworth? Yes, Your Honor. If this court were to examine this further, other witnesses will be necessary. Is the prosecution prepared? I'm sorry, Your Honor. The prosecution considered the incident at the police department to be unrelated. We have not prepared any other witnesses for this incident. This just might be my chance. Time to call a certain Texas Ranger to the stand. Mr. Wright, do you mean, Your Honor? The defense would like to request a specific witness. Oh, who do you have in mind? Someone we have reason to believe knows the truth. The truth behind the activities that took place in the evidence room. The prosecution requests to hear this person's name before deciding whether or not to comply. Very well then, Mr. Wright. This person whom you would have testified. What is his or her name?
Take that!
Officer Jake Marshall. Why him? I can't let Edgeworth know everything just yet. He's in charge of the evidence room. I feel we should hear what he has to say. The prosecution agrees to the defense request. Since he was responsible for guarding the room, we should hear his testimony. Fortunately, he works in the police department. We shouldn't need longer than 20 minutes to prepare. Very well. The court will take a 30-minute recess while the witness is subpoenaed. Will the prosecution please prepare the witness during this time? Well, we will, Your Honor. Court is now in recess.
Oh my God! I can't. I told you.
There's no stopping you, is there? There's no stopping you, is there, Mr. Wright? Huh? What do you mean? You called for Jake Marshall. It seems you figured everything out. Huh? I haven't figured out anything. I haven't figured anything out. Well, no. You're the one who knows everything. Emma. You always know everything. Why don't you just tell us? Mr. Wright is trying his hardest to protect you. I don't recall ever asking for his protection. How can you be so cold? Don't you trust us? Don't you trust me? Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. Oh, guess I am. I'll come back later. Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it? You've got a lot of nerve, pal, making a detective run all around while on duty. And to top it all off, you called me here. I've seen happier people at funerals. Sorry, Detective. You better be, pal. Hey! I didn't see you there, Chief Prosecutor Sky. That's okay, so have you bought what I asked? Oh, Ho ho ho! Oh ho 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 ho! You mean this, right? My apologies, Detective. Due to my present circumstances, I was forced to use Mr. Wright's name when making my request. My name? Never in a million years would I have thought it was you who asked me. Could I bother you to bring me the SO9 incident files? I'll need them by noon. Talk about crazy. The SO9 incident? Alana, that's... I thought Mr. Wright might need them, so I had them brought here. Here, you might do well to read them. I can't believe you, the chief prosecutor, were a witness in that case. This guy was a witness? Take it from me, you don't want anything to do with serial murderers. Oh, what? Now that I've brought you your stuff, you're just gonna ignore me? Emma? But why? Why is your name in here? What? My name is in there? I don't know. Unless... No, it couldn't be. Lana, this SO9 incident, is that... That's the classification number that police filed it under. 2 years ago, the rest of the world knew it as the Joe Dart killings. Joe Dart? No, Lana. That's over with. No! Emma, wait. She ran away. You know what? I just remembered. I gotta be somewhere. Sorry, pal, but I'm out of here. Jake Marshall, Angel Starr, Damon Gant, Miles Edgeworth. Not to mention Lana and Emma. Everyone involved in this case is connected to those killings 2 years ago. This can't be just a coincidence. Knowing you just might be able to figure it out. Time to get back to the trial, Mr. Wright. Best of luck. I better take a good look at this file.
What was that?
Can't believe it's already an hour, but second here. Man, this is a longer case than I thought it would be, because the others didn't seem like they took this long. Okay, so this one will be like a finale, but we'll just make it 1 more hour until the next to be continued. And we'll see if I can squeeze in a little time, maybe not a whole hour, but at least maybe 40 minutes of God of War. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. Sorry I have to keep getting up like this. Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. You can't be drinking on the witness stand. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Me, partner? Oh, I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trails of civilization, occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know, you're a patrolman. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind calling it out. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? I've never heard Ezra described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner. What do you mean? A desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English. My job was to keep a weary eye on that bone orchard. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at a street-side saloon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. I can't say I particularly care for your attitude. I can say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Okay, that's pretty funny. That's a nice little bit of dialogue. Like, I don't care much of your beard. You don't hear me. That was good. That was progress. Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you know about those. Yes, well, about the fingerprint activated locks on the evidence lockers? Fingerprint activation locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. He's not that good with machines or with following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses, now don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours. How exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room? I just made sure nothing moved in the security camera monitor. That room's so still. Even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who entered the recordings. You entered them? Videos of nothing aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape. If nothing unusual is recorded, tapes are to be erased every 6 hours. Each time I erased the tape, it felt like I was erasing a part of my life. This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't going to do him any good. So, in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room. You made your rounds on the day of the crime, right? Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style. I'm afraid I don't understand. No, Desperado, I know let's rules get in his way. No, Desperados, I know join the police force. So, Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime, just between you and me, I didn't set foot in that evidence room that day. There was a rubber glove stuck in the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, partner, can't say I do. I haven't been in that crypt in weeks. How does this guy avoid being fired? They love cowboys. You used to be a detective, so you've used evidence from in the past, correct? Of course. Back in the day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence. And yet, you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism? Sorry, partner. I ain't good with machines. I couldn't even tell you how a bike works. That's quite incredible. The sensors on the locker handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. Now that he mentions it, Detective Gumshoe said something like that too. Anyway, it doesn't seem that this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place? What were you doing in a place like that? I was eating spaghetti. Even Angel steak lunches can beat that parlor's Vongole Sepia pasta. Do you mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles? Not all desperados eat tacos, partner. That's not what I meant. I hope this has at least taught you a lesson. That's strange. This is usually where Ezra says, "Do you not want a raise this year?" Out of ammo, Officer Marshall. That's right, partner. Or as you call it, evidence. If you plan to pin me to this crime, then you better draw. Otherwise, you just wasting my time. My steel horse is waiting to carry me back west into the sunset. One thing seems clear. Despite being responsible for guarding the evidence room, the witness doesn't appear to have seen anything. Texans don't take orders from anyone. Everyone knows that. Apparently your superiors don't. Okay, I have a trump card up my sleeve, so I best keep my cool. Before I use it though, I better up the ante. Okay. 1 second. Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd that you being called, that is, you being called to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime, and yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint. Isn't real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crib. I pay my respects, that is, make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints will be in there. Objection! I only wish it were, officer. But you see, the fingerprints were covered in blood. I got that full-on good, bad, and the ugly thing got going on. Witness, what is the meaning of this? The blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene? The blood was wiped away. However, the luminol test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall, it seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall, about the blood-stained fingerprints? Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints found at the scene of the crime. Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in the evidence room. One of them just happens to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The blood stain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See, that had nothing to do with it. The witness explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt. Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner. The defense may now cross-examine the witness. This guy is hiding something, I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. That's because you, how did you put it, pay your respects? That's because you, how did you put it, pay your respects once a month? Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. That locker happened to be mine. What you mean? What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now, though, is a heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently, his fingerprint data was never removed from that locker's program. He must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without ever knowing it. So then, what about this bloody handprint? Wasn't mine. It's no mystery. Please explain. My locker is covered with my fingerprints. It just so happened. The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. On the contrary, one could argue just the opposite. The chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward from me with mere fingerprint. You wanna know why? Unrelated. There's a difference as night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's got to do with breakfast while the other is a type of murder. He's right. Although seemingly alike, they're totally different. I don't see what homonyms have to do with this. Remember back in the day when we learned about homonyms and synonyms? I remember as kids we used to joke about calling it like homonyms. How do you know that? I may be alone, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports. There was a blood stain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too. So that would mean the murderer wearing gloves happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint. That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? This seal of blood in the desert is just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. A security tape. So long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. What do you mean by that? You want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have.
Objection!
But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots? Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape.
Objection!
We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now. Very well. One second. Okay. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. Now then, let's have another look at that video. Show us this incriminating evidence of the witness, Officer Jake Marshall. Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall. The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. That's 2 words. You can clearly be seen in this video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, technically that's 8. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. That locker with the white cloth sticking out, that was the witnesses, I believe. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. Oh, the white cloth, it's gone. What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. It would seem that's the only hold your horses, partner. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man. So what if my locker was open? It doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened the locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why is everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah? I call you bluff. You say I opened that locker. Now prove it. Fingerprint sensor? We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. What crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There are even some people on the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? Boom! Bitch, take that! Beef jerky? I only got 1 word for you, partner. No! Witness, explain yourself. If this is a joke, it's the worst I ever heard. I assure you this no joke. This is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime. Ole, please answer the question. What is he now, a bullfighter? That's all right, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure the rest out from here. We can? Have a look at these floor plans. I think this case is probably a little longer because it has two different murder scenes, so I gotta do, almost like two cases in one kind of situation, so that's probably why it feels like it's gonna be longer. There is no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. That's so. Then, where was the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right, the only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? 1 second. Officer Marshall was standing right here. There, but that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct, unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you dressed up like Detective Goodman.
Objection!
But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he knew for sure.
Objection!
May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? Yeah, good point. Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? You've got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? Still denying it? You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Well, what am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. This can't be happening. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics? For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside the box. Yeah, she looks so much like Lana. I mean, like the design, I mean, like the design team behind this game clearly, you know, it was part of the story, but man, they didn't have to make it so like, you know, obvious or take like, you know, I mean, like sure, maybe like keep the same height, maybe the eyes, but it looked like they like just gave her a different suit and redone her hair. That's all they seem to do with Lana, and just Mia in a different outfit, even with the scarf, no less. If they went to school together, it's like, you know, what did like Mia like ape off Lana's look or something? I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise, but rather I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was open in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So, just what exactly is the piece of cloth? Is this piece of cloth? Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot. Very well. Let's take yet another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open his locker. Should be nearing the end of the video. Isn't it convenient that the Blue Badger's flag obscures the face right at the time it needed to?
Take that!
For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know what end yet. To what end yet? However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When I asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked. And the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that. So you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, partner. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated you. Hope you are happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now would we? Officer Marshall, tell us the court what you did, all of it. All right, it seems the time has come. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out and managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. So the supposed victim was really you. But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. When you say it, you mean, do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transfer to that day. Not if I had anything to do with it. Here's the thing, I'm curious. And I'm not familiar with like police protocol because I do expect like certain cases, like cold cases or something like that, to eventually, well, I won't say cold cases, but cases that was completely solved, to be stored for a bit of time and then obviously completely dished altogether after a significant amount of time has passed. But if before that expiration date comes around and another case opens up connecting to that supposed old case, then once that case reopens and then resolved, do that same old evidence get put back and then that has to wait another 2 years before it goes to transfer again? Or does it just finish off the rest of the time it had left? I'm too curious to know which one is the case. That incident is not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only that case lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself once. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. But Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance. That's why Why didn't you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transfer, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card? I stole that the morning of the incident. So that really was why Goodman started filling out that lost item report. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in that prosecutor's office parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean, the fingerprint activated the locker for us. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself. But he could because of a rubber glove that happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only plan on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is one in a million type of person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to show his ID. I have to think a little more about his raise this year. When did Ezra get so much influence? Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way, with me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say. So you knocked Officer Meekins out and why he's holding like a knife in the middle of the courtroom and like, well, I guess since he's still like an officer of the law, probably not for much longer anyway, he can still, I guess, he only one allowed to carry weapons, but I don't know, this is wild to me. So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker, stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? Or else, he was sleeping like a baby. So what you're saying is, on that day, but the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me. I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence from the locker. Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer? This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. You can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one's mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more.
Hold it!
But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think his real reason is. I have a feeling we wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. I better take another look at the files. 1 second.
Objection!
Objection! That's really fun to say. Objection! Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. In the list of murder victims, Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you heard of the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? You must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right. He was killed. And the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, the then deputy chief of police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. Then the case was finally closed, at least according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions? There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with this resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. The murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze me. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's got to be more than just that. So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one, which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Sky.
Objection!
But wait, a verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial,
Objection!
which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. There's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. It seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner. All the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murderer took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Sky. And the testimony of one Miss Angel Star is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. I rest my case. It seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera's tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant this girl. Your Honor, wait. Emma, the defense has an objection, a scientific objection, right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor, in a sense. Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Ezra, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings. Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky sisters were in that file. But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing. The other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found at Detective Gumshoe's locker? But no fingerprints were found on it, right? No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I went over there and looked at it again. Can't speak. So did you find something? No. Huh? Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Is that all? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student. And I'm just an attorney. But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them, please, Mr. Wright, you are a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you. You interrupted the case, I know it's your sister, but you just jumped in without any forethought what you have, like something substantial. Even if you couldn't get the exact trace of prints from that other bloodstained handprint. Yeah, he's like, oh, I didn't get, the exact prints, but I have this. You're pretty much wasting your breath. And you just put it all on me. Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be more use, but still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be... Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. You don't have all day. Yes, Your Honor. If ever I needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with that handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing? Okay. So yeah, obviously I eject.
Objection!
This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing that seems clear is your grasping, Mr. Wright. You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them? Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn out there? Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark. Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright. All this evidence here. There's got to be something I can use. The question is, which item can prove something is missing in the floor plans? What about that piece of plywood? The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force, defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well, what? That's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it will be impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker. What? What? So that means, just exactly what does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on the locker. Don't look at me, I didn't put it there. That's right. Think it through scientifically. Emma, on that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger to the evidence room, right? But after he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in. Just one moment, I would not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom. It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered.
Objection!
That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim.
Objection!
The murder portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, it does not explain the blood mark found on the locker.
Objection!
So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur? To summarize, the defense claims that Prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room. That's right, the blood mark on the locker proves this. Very well, then tell us. When did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented. Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that. Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the first crime took place? It has to be the shoe, right? It doesn't look like it.
Take that!
This is the proof. It's quite simple, you see. If it's so simple, then don't get it wrong. Huh? How was it unsimple? Oh, that wasn't it. You lied to me, video. Or I kind of jumped the gun or missed something. Oh, yeah, I did miss something. Yeah, I jumped the gun. My bad. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required. An ID card? Oh, the ID card record. Officer Meekins brought the blue badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m.? Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done? I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room. Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining. 7 sevens? Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 7 sevens. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is, that's 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card, at least at present. What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 7 sevens belong to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity.
Objection!
But that's ridiculous. Just how? I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There's one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted, an official charge. You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor operates. Prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay, let me ask a question. Yes. No, not you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana?
Objection!
Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course, we've looked up her ID number, and it's not 7 sevens. Don't blame me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. The SO9 incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Ezrath. 2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. Lana? I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, just what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me and an investigator in that crime in the eye and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't. I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana, even if it involved forging evidence, see, that's what I'm talking about. No. No! Oh, she forged evidence. She is like, she broke the law. Can't do that. Dun, dun, dun! Okay. We'll try to get to this tomorrow, but this is not going to be the final video like I thought it would be. I jumped the gun again, so my bad. Anywho, I can probably at least maybe like 10, 20 minutes, and I'll hop onto some God of War before I call it a night. I won't say I got all day, but at some point tomorrow, got a new chaotic lore video for the channel. Then later on in the day, I will get right back into this because it's getting too good. And then, God of War. Well, maybe not Reigns of God of War. I want to play more multiverses. Then end the day with God of War. But yeah, give me like 10, 20 minutes and I'll have God of War booted up. So I'll see you guys in a little bit.